It's so gorgeous, isn't it,
It
in the harbour?
is. It's amazing.
Did you grow up here?
Yeah, I was born in Sydney. So.
It's magical. We came flying in yesterday early from Canberra.
Yeah.
And there was a part of the coast that was desolate, but just to see and imagine what that was like for people in the 1920s or 30s when they were flying, able to fly over and see.
It's like, what are we going to do with this space?
And look what they did. I mean, this is stunning. It's magical playing that venue that we see in the distance.
Yes.
And I think you can have an audience sometimes that just really does sprinkle gold dust on an evening. I can't tell you what that is, those qualities, because sometimes it's in anticipation, sometimes it's a passion, but it's also controlled. It's a real mixture of ingredients that make a concert work.
Yeah.
For me as a performer, I can make almost anything work, even if you give me difficult drunk Germans. Well, at Rock and Ring, no, they were projectile vomiting, and they were all young, and some were kind of cute, if I remember correctly, but they were off their face, and they were there to see aggressive rock music. And I think that by the end of it, they realized that you can be as intense. Yeah. It's not about how loud you are.
Or how much you scream.
It's about the content and what you're saying. So last night was just Rosé Cristal 1989 for me. I had to sit on a beach in Hawaii. I know, torture, right? And really restructure everything, because it's a very different show than it was with the band.
Yeah, I noticed there was quite a lack of the abnormally attracted to sing songs.
They're very produced and dependent on the arrangements. Yeah. It's a big repertoire, thank heaven.
Yeah.
So when you get to be my age, it's good to have a big repertoire when you do something like this, because there are hundreds of songs to choose from. I have certain benchmarks in the show that don't change. There are about 3 songs that are there. And I have to hit these points in the story. And what gets us to these points will change every night.
What's the significance of the Lizard Lounge section without the band? Because on the Beekeeper tour, you had the piano bar, where you did the covers. Then the last tour you had Tea and Bo, which was just you solo. Lizard Lounge in Europe and the US, that was when the band left?
That's right.
So what does that mean for Australia?
That's a really good question. That's a setup before the Hammond comes out. Without the band, it's more of a demarcation for me and Sound and Lights to know that this is our shifting period. Yeah. It's something that begins to move us into the denouement of the story.
The first track, Give, it's a very dark sounding song, but I find it really positive, like it's about the choice to actually make a positive contribution. How much of yourself can you give before it does turn into a negative again?
Well, and that's the song. When does giving become an addiction? When does it become out of balance? No different than taking, because you can raise your neck to the vampire's teeth just a little too much and it will kill you. You can open it up a little bit, because then you can regenerate. I've been fascinated by the idea of the emotional vampire, which was a phrase that began a long, long time ago. It's become a cliche now, but there was a time, the idea that there were those kinds of people and are those kinds of people, and sometimes we step into that ourselves. How do you have relationships with those kinds of people and with yourself so that you're able to stay in a balanced place? I make it so in a show that people can come and feast, but there's a place where no vampire is going to cross that line and hijack that show. It's impossible now. That's not going to happen. But that's because I'm 46. When I was first playing, there were moments when I could be consumed and you give yourself away. Because you do get into a place of not giving anymore, but giving yourself away, which is no different than prostituting your being, your spiritual self, your soul. The early church fathers, which include the Catholic Church, manipulating Christ's message to subjugate the masses, particularly women. And as a minister's daughter, I have seen this from the inside. I tell people, there's not a lot I know in this world, but I know religion like a blind man knows scent, and I know how it's manipulated to control us. I've always said I'm not talking about those sweet little ladies that bake that lemon poppy seed cake that I just love and can sit with them for hours, and their faith and their compassionate heart. They do walk the compassionate path of Christ. Now sometimes though, they do things for all the wrong reasons. There are people, missionaries, and who have this zeal, this self-righteousness, which is not the teaching of the Buddha or the great avatars, Christ included. He's one of many who had great wisdom for us. And yet, my list, you asked me the list of sins, but in what I've just said to you would be pages of the manipulation of Christ's teachings that leaders, mothers, all kinds of people use to control another human being instead of to help develop another person so that they have their spiritual freedom. Very few religious groups want you, me, or you to be independent of them. We shouldn't be dependent on a religious structure. The spiritual side of things should be there for us to come drink like a well, but it's not. If you don't come to my well and do it my way, then you're going to perish from thirst. It shouldn't be that way. I'm sorry. I digress. I really went on a tirade there. Please let me have my list of sins. And the thing is, though, they would never get to the religious leaders. They get to people who send me hate mail, and they get to people in government who try and make my life difficult and silly stuff like that. I get my share, but it's great because if you ever need a fire, you can burn it. But I am Tori, so one must have fire in purgatory, and I'm happy to hold that space. Well, I see you all as having this is your midsummer, so you're having your solstice. So you're the mirror reflection of what's happening in the Northern Hemisphere. And therefore, what this work is really about is to not be exclusive to other cultures. That's what I think is one of the threads in Midwinter Graces or Midsummer Graces, because it is really about the cycles of nature and the rebirth that we go through as people each season. What's wrong with having to rethink your values and to realize that instead of sometimes buying things for people, because it can make it easier. You don't have to have the one-on-one, you don't have to give the emotional time. I have found that giving of myself and my time to people has been a real challenge, because you can get out of something more easily if you buy them a present. And sometimes instead it's taking them out to lunch. Investing that time. Let's go have a day together. And you think, oh no, I'm just going to bite the bullet and buy.
Because then I have to talk.
And then you do what's good about that is you realize, you know what? No. I value my time too much. I'm going to fall out with this person if I spend more than 30 minutes with them. So therefore, okay, I am going to get them that, because this is how we keep the status quo. Then there are other people, then you think, I miss just sitting down with them. My time is precious to me and to them. So for us to give that to each other, it is better than some gift that I'm never going to wear. And so I think this time is getting us to question our relationships and where can you give and how you want to give. You can give in ways that you realize you come back and have to have 2 days to recuperate from being with that situation. And you think, oh no.